This image, does it mean anything to you? Does it invoke anything inside of you? It should. For generations, this was the ideal and what people fought so hard to protect. And in doing so, we lost the very thing that made these spaces special. See, neighborhood character, it's not the pitch of a roof or a spindle on a porch. It's made up of the characters themselves. And our policies for a long time have led to fleeing families and declining kid populations. For those that know me, know I tend to go on some pretty lengthy, annoying rants on Twitter. And they're mostly housing related. And as a developer, I bet you know what I'm going to say next. Restrictive zoning, lack of multifamily housing, that got us here. And you'd be right. But I'm here to confess that housing alone is not enough. Yes, the type of housing we build influences the type of characters that we get. But the data tells us some interesting things. But why should we care so much about kids anyway? With 3 of my own, I could use a little kid free time. If there's any babysitters here tonight, come find me. I have a job for you. Kids are really interesting. They make great design surrogates because what's good for a kid is good for everybody. Safe streets, clean air, green spaces, housing security, somewhere to express their freedoms, which is why I like to use a kid generation score as a methodology to evaluate neighborhood health. We like to use a saucier name, housing-induced fertility. I'll explain. In Victoria, over the last census period from 2016 to 2021, we built over 3,400 new homes. And literally from those homes, we got 580 net new kids. We can express that as a ratio. For every 6 net new homes, we get 1 new kid. When we drill into the types of housing, like towers, it can be as high as 28 homes to get 1 new kid. Whereas ground-oriented housing forms like townhouses and duplexes, it can be as low as 1.2 homes to get 1 new kid. That means less than every other home is getting a kid. It's a show of Oprah. Kids for everybody. We zoom out to the West Shore, and they built a lot of homes, over 7,600 homes, and they got the benefit of 2,000 new kids. So a much better ratio, 3.7 net new homes to get 1 kid. But that came at the expense of urban sprawl, which has some of its own challenges. Oak Bay and Saanich, we had to combine them. Together, they only built 1,500 units, and from those, they lost 450 kids. Like, where did they go? So, for every 3 net new homes, they lost a kid. What's worse is that those losses, half of them came from multifamily construction, which means new development is driving some displacement. Not great. So what does this tell us? That housing alone is not enough. Lots of areas added new homes, but we didn't get the diversity of those communities that we're after. Other areas added lots of diverse housing, but it wasn't a magic bullet. And it actually, our patterns of focusing our development like a fire hose in small areas of town led to negative impacts. So there's a missing link. This handsome jabroni, he's got a great quote. "The past is the light that illuminates the future. So sometimes, in order to go forward, we have to look back." You see, we used to build our neighborhoods with all the services we need within them. We had to. Without modern-day transportation speeds, we didn't have a choice. To get from point A to point B, you took public transit, like the streetcar. And then we built our neighborhoods around these networks. And in 1948, we shut it all down. Fortunately, we still had trusty old zoning. Zoning! That allowed us to mix neighborhood and residential in harmony in our neighborhoods. And then in 1982, we got rid of that too. We downzoned all of our residential areas in Victoria, removing neighborhood commercial and the multifamily housing needed to support those neighborhood commercial spaces. A double whammy. Decades later, we're still reeling from the impacts. We lost great spaces like these, and it hit me. These amenities in the neighborhoods were the glue that holds our neighborhood fabric together. Who doesn't want a small grocer, coffee shop on your block? Who doesn't want to get their pants tailored and eat bread cakes at the same time? Thank you, Nielsen's. These spaces were a win. Go down to James Bay. We still see the ghosts of the past. Something as simple as a corner store adds so much to a neighborhood character. But on that day in 1982, we made these spaces illegal. Boo, yeah. Nielsen's, gone. These spaces are really important. If we want the 15-minute city, the holy grail of all urban planning, this is the concept that everything you need in your daily life is 15 minutes from your doorstep, things like corner stores. Only 24% of our region lives in an amenity-rich neighborhood. Remember them kids? Our trusty design surrogates? Over 80% are growing up in low amenity areas. They're not biking in the streets to get ice cream anymore. They're dependent on the car for basic daily tasks. But it doesn't have to be just a corner store. You can map anything. We once mapped all the splash pads in Vancouver. My next TED Talk is how many splash pads does it take to generate one kid? Now, as you can tell, I spent a lot of time thinking about the amenity richness of a block, a street, a neighborhood, and we've dreamed up some wild things along the way. Forget Thrifties in Gonzales. We want the Twin Towers of Gonzales. A Ferris wheel and boardwalk at Willows Beach in Oak Bay, to which their council said over our dead bodies. A public pool, climbing walls, tennis courts, relax, and pickleball at Beacon Hill Park. The red ribbon themed street closure of Government Street. The parking people did not like this one. A drive-in hotel and parkade at Clover Point. We made no new friends with this idea. But we also dreamed a public swim dock in the Gorge Waterway, and we built it. And then we asked the federal government for permission. It's so successful that the city has expanded their swim docks in the area and have renamed this area Gorge Marine Park. It goes to show that building first and asking for permission later is always a game-winning strategy. But if we don't dream up these spaces, we end up with a map like this, the haves and the have-nots of amenities. And this regional fragmentation leads to more time in the car. That then leads to insane infrastructure like this. You're standing on the breakwater, staring at a bridge from downtown Victoria to Colwood. That whale, he's not happy. He's jumping out of the water in agony. So from here on out, you're going to hear me talking a lot more about third spaces. This is a concept in sociology that delineates spatial environments. Your home is your first space, your work and school can be your second space, and everything in between are third spaces. Things like lending libraries, coffee shops, splash pads. You get the idea. These spaces are super important in fostering a civil society, democracy, a sense of belonging within us. Close your eyes with me for a moment. Think about a third space in your life. Think about what it meant to you. Think about the relationships that you made there. Could be from your childhood. How do you feel? Pretty great, right? Open your eyes. Mine sucked. It was a 7-Eleven parking lot in Gordon Head of all places. But as kids, you work with what you have. We've made a tremendous amount of reforms in residential housing, and those are to be celebrated. We're righting a lot of the wrongs of the past, but for our kids and for current and future generations, we need to legalize the complete neighborhood again. For me, it's back to Twitter to advocate for third spaces. Because remember, what's good for kids is good for everybody. And Ferris wheels, they bring out the most amount of kids in all of us. Thank you.